Nate's I Love MILF shirt just
It's
stresses
just
me out.
distracting
Stresses me
you.
out. Um, but yeah, so this week we watched Arrival. I'm gonna keep it relatively brief because I'm assuming the top five video is gonna come out before this. And me and Chris kind of already talked about it. This was my second favorite movie. Chris's fourth, I think. Is that correct?
So
Yeah.
you like it
Yes.
more, is what I'm hearing. You're the bigger
Yeah,
fan.
yeah. I'm a better fan than Chris is at
No, I
watching
agree.
this movie. Yeah. So this was a movie about a linguist who's called in by the military to study, or I guess not study, but figure out what these aliens are trying to say, figure out why they are on this planet and
What their
what they
purpose
want.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's
Um,
literally what they ask in the movie.
yeah, what is your purpose here? Um, yeah, so I'm gonna give this a 10. This is my first 10.
Oh my god.
I I'm sure you guys might pick it apart. I don't know, but I personally can't think of anything wrong with this movie. I love it a lot. This movie means a lot to me. So I'll stop it there. I'm
I
sure we'll
was
get into
shocked
specifics
You're
later.
at 10. That
Yeah,
kind of caught me
nah.
off guard.
That's
This
the,
has
first
to be
10?
this
that's
has
the,
to be
that's
a 10
the
for me.
second the second ever 10. Yeah.
Just
Well,
throwing
get
out
ready for the
10 every 10.
third.
Oh my
Because
God.
don't worry, I'll go next. I also really love this movie, and I don't think that should be surprising. Like pretty much anything this director has done, I'm just a huge fucking fan of, and this movie is no exception. Just the idea is so fucking interesting to me, like trying to learn an alien language, and I think, I mean, it's definitely not the most exciting movie, I guess. Like it's definitely not an action. Like there isn't a lot of crazy shit that happens, but it feels like a mystery kind of throughout it, and I think that's super fun. Like, so I don't have many negatives. One thing I'd say that I was kind of annoyed by throughout the movie is it was a little too dark a lot. Like I literally like had to make sure there was no light in my room, or I
thought you
couldn't
meant, like,
see what was
dark, like, it's,
happening
like-
sometimes. No,
Depressing.
not the
Yeah.
themes. Like I mean, literally visually. Like sometimes I
Yeah.
literally, if there was any light in my room, there would be like a blur, and I couldn't see what I was looking at. But that's so like, who gives a fuck? Like, but that's my one complaint if I have any. So whoever else wants to go ahead.
What out of 10, Nate? What out of 10?
Oh, 10 out of 10. That was the point. That was
Yeah,
the whole
yeah,
point.
alright.
I love.
Obviously, gotta
I
make sure.
love this movie.
The third
Let's see if we can keep it going.
I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to give it a 10. I was
waiting
thinking
for someone
9.5. You always got to have like a
Jesus.
little space at the top just in case.
Damn.
I just want to be an asshole. Is what I want.
Yeah.
I like.
Your
Exactly.
fourth favorite
I want
movie
to be
ever made.
My goal is to be a pretentious asshole.
Yeah,
and
it's what
so
he's
I'm
being.
giving it
You
a
succeeded.
9.5.
And you're
You didn't even need to
Yeah,
say it.
no, it was in my top 5. I think I said it was like my favorite science fiction movie of all time, which
But I
guess
can't give
is.
it a 10.
I can't give it a 10.
fair.
But yeah, it's it's an alien movie, but it's so much more than that, and it's a really cool watch. It's really fun.
I'll
That's all I
go.
had to say.
Go ahead, Tim.
Chris with the 9.5. I would give this movie an 8 out of 10.
Ooh.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought
I
it was
couldn't
good.
see it being less than that.
But
7.9.
yeah, I thought Amy Adams did phenomenal. Amy
Is
Adams I
John
think,
giving his first rating?
No.
is kind of Amy Adams is kind of slept on now. I think that like our generation or like the next generation of people like doesn't realize
He's been
how
in a
good
lot of
Amy
really
Adams
good movies.
is. Yeah, she's like consistently good at like I can't think of a bad performance by her. Jeremy Renner does sick too. The concept is
Whitaker's
super
in this?
fucking cool. Forrest
he-
Whitaker does sick.
Hey, dude, he's so good in this. I
Is that,
enjoy
is
it.
that like
Aliens
his
are cool
actual accent in the movie? I thought his accent was kind of weird.
I
like,
think
I
that's
don't
just
know.
how he talks in real life. I
Okay.
don't
I have
know.
no idea.
I mean, what do you mean by accent?
Like the
do you
way he
mean,
like the way he talked. I don't know. It sounded weird.
Yeah, I don't think that's like a regional thing. I think that's just the way he talks. I don't know.
But yeah, 8 out of 10. John?
Yeah, this movie was really, 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 really good.
Okay, so from E.T. to Alien.
Lamau.
to
E.T.
A. Lamau.
to A. Lamau.
To A. Lamau.
God, I don't know. What was that movie? It was like had. Oh God, I remember seeing trailers for it. It was
I
like,
wish I could help you, but I have no clue.
it was like this like alien comes to Earth. But he's like he gets picked
That's
up
every
by
alien movie.
no, but he gets picked up by like these.
Oh,
two-
the Jimmy Neutron movie.
yeah.
yeah, the
Aliens
Jimmy
in the
Neutron
attic.
movie.
I'd give this to Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah,
movie.
this
No,
gets-
aliens
gets-
in the attic.
Let's get some aliens in the attic.
Aliens in the attic. Batteries not included. That's what I'm
No, this
thinking.
movie was really, really great. I really enjoyed this movie because, like you said, Nate, it's like not an action movie in the slightest, but like, I wouldn't want it to be at all.
It feels
because
like it should be because that's what most alien movies are.
This is a
But
movie
this isn't.
about the attempt at understanding the alien, the arriving species, instead of that, because they're not combative, and this is the attempt to prevent combativeness between humanity and our visitors, and like,
Which is such a twist to what you would expect in an alien movie.
yeah. Well, I mean, like
The
I'm
concept
sure-
of trying to like understand the alien language is like such a good concept, I feel.
Well, I wanted to say, I think that's one of the most important things. It's like the point of the whole movie is interpretation, or like communication, I guess, in general, but how you interpret that. Like, because it's so interesting from the start, because some people take it as immediately as like a sign of like attack, like just that they showed up. And that's how some news outlets in the show portray it. And some people are like, I mean, like, who cares? Like, I feel like that's kind of how Amy Adams is towards it at first. It's not my problem.
Yeah,
like,
it was
they're not
funny,
hurting me right now.
Yeah, they landed and then like a weekend went by and she like went to
Yeah.
work expecting it's like
And the
pretty
kid
funny,
didn't
yeah.
even show up. I thought that was interesting. And, like, they had the riots throughout, because that's really realistic. I mean, people riot
Oh,
over
sure,
literally anything. So, like, you would riot over that for sure.
I mean, like, understandably though, like, you know,
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying they're absolutely
because
real.
like when you were saying about like the interpret, not only is it communication, but part of communicating is interpreting encoding and decoding. And I think like probably the best like iteration of that was when the heptapods give them the symbols for
What they want.
offer weapon, but
Yeah.
then the Chinese twist it to what is it, give weapon or no?
Use weapon.
Use
Well,
weapon.
that was the thing,
Yeah.
is they all translated in different ways, remember, because they used a game.
And it has way
Yeah.
different connotation because of that. And I think that was a really like, that was like, oh yeah, that's how that would happen.
It's fun you brought that up first, though, because that is one of my favorite parts. That's like probably my favorite quote through the movie. It was when she was like, if you gave it an objective, it was just like win or lose, then obviously that's how you're going to read everything you see. Every answer they got came across as win or lose now, because that's how they offered the information.
Interactions aren't meant to be transactional. They're meant to be, you know,
Yes.
a step towards understanding. And because the way that we communicate is way more complicated than that.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing how the Chinese used the game. That is like human beings really.
What did they
do kind of
use?
treat
Sorry.
everything.
Mahjong.
They used Mahjong.
Mahjong, that's super good.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but that's interesting. Like, if you guys have ever, I remember taking economics in college, and we briefly talked about game theory.
Yeah.
But it really is like
how we treat
you can
everything.
you can kind of boil everything down to like a certain type of game, and that was a pretty interesting way that like, I didn't think that you could actually like communicate through a game, but that really would be a good way to understand humans.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how we see everything is competition for the most part. For some, even though that, like, I think that's kind of the point too.
Maybe
Is that
it's a zero sum game where it's not really like everybody wins. It's
Everybody
not even a
wins.
bad thing, but yeah, it's just a weird
but
way of,
even
like-
you could even interpret that as kind of a competition. I think was part of the point too. Like,
Yeah.
well, we both win, so there was a part. I'm trying to think. Whenever they first get there, and they see the aliens, I was because I had never actually watched this movie before I watched it. I did not expect them to look that gross. They were so disgusting.
They're
I don't
cute.
know why
What do you mean?
They were
I don't
cute.
think they were
I
that
thought they
good.
were
They're
cute.
cute.
Yeah.
I had to like think about that thought. They were just a hand, and part of me was like, "Ew," and then I was like, "I wonder if that's like important." And I never thought of a reason that they chose that look for them, because I feel like that has to be important, right? But I couldn't think of a actual reason. Did you ever see the pictures of what they actually look like? Because you kind of see it at the end, but it's
You
still
see it
kind
at
of
the
blurred.
end. Yeah.
But it's kind of like blurred still. Like you can't fully see it. They look like a hand and then just a torso. It's
Yeah.
so gross. Like I thought I was so disgusted by
Well,
it.
I
personally.
knew when I
I was
first
like,
saw them.
"Ew."
When I first saw them, I knew that wasn't like entirely what they looked like. I was like, there's probably more to them.
I had
than what
seen
we've
the tentacles, but I didn't know they were just like a hand.
That's what I mean. I mean like the upper part. They're like
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
way
yeah.
taller.
I didn't know
than
that
the-
either.
I'll say one thing that this is a bit offbeat. The one thing I didn't, this isn't, I don't know if this is really a criticism of it, but one thing that I found a little weird was there were a lot of cuts that were like, would fade to black, but it was real quick and short. And it looked like the cut you would get if you were watching a movie on TV and they fade to black real quick and
Commercial.
then cut the commercial. And that happened like twice. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get up because the commercial's coming. Like I had that like instinct.
It could
And I
be
was like, wait a
possible
minute.
that is intentional. I'm sure they plan that.
Well,
sometimes,
they
like,
did
where
it
to
enough that it was like, oh, this is like a style choice. Like
Yeah,
I've never
that's-
really seen that.
It's just how they
used so
chose to
much.
transition for some reason.
I don't know. I didn't notice that. So like, I'm trying to think of when that was,
Yeah.
but I
To
didn't
me, it was
really
a little
notice
bit
it.
jarring. They did it a bunch.
I'm
They
sure
did
it was, but I might have not been
Yeah.
paying attention during those parts. You know, like I
was
literally
just-
looked away.
Yeah, I was just unfamiliar with that, like, because it was like a fade to black, but it was real quick. The transitions were basically like a jump cut, but it was like they faded to black through it. So I don't know if that like is supposed to convey any
Well-
sort of message in like cinematography, but I don't know.
Well, I think it's supposed to convey time passing. If anything, I think that's whenever there's like a little bit of a longer cut like that. It's just specifically when it's black too. Like it's supposed to be time passing. Like you're supposed to know, oh,
Yeah.
this has been a while. Like that 1 second can make a difference to like your mind.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be because the whole movie is about time being kind of non-linear, and that it's like a big section of time passes between cuts, but it's real quick.
Well, I'm
Maybe
glad you
that's
brought
why.
that up because this movie is kind of made to be watched. Like you can watch it. Well, it's kind of come full circle. So like once you finished it, that's why Arrival is at the end. It kind of like you could watch it right at the beginning again.
You have
Like,
to watch
could
it
just restart
backwards.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
This,
But
this
no one
movie's a
Kendrick Lamar
pal-
album.
this movie
If-
is a palindrome.
If you set it up, yeah, I feel like that was
Don't
so.
they speak in palindromes?
That was a little too on the nose when.
Who the
Yeah.
One
Hannah
second. 1
The,
second.
la-
Chris.
the aliens. Go ahead.
But like, oh, your name's Hannah because it's a palindrome. You could have not told us that. I knew that. Like,
Wait,
I
Wait,
could figure that out myself.
Chris, do you mean because like they're what do you mean? Like,
you mean
the
their
way they-
how they speak?
Yeah, how they speak is like
I don't know.
Circular,
I didn't look that up or
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
The same
'cause-
boards and
Do you mean their
die.
language? Do you mean their language?
Like-
yeah, the alien
Well,
language.
their
like the
language
little
starts
circles.
and finishes at the same time. So technically, you can't read it
Okay,
forwards
yeah.
or backwards at all. So I mean, I think kind of, but I don't know how they interpreted that so easily. I would like to say because I think only like a
Yeah.
week or two passed, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, we got it."
No,
These little-
Several-
Amy Adams'
several
character
months
was actually a
passed, right?
genius.
Yeah,
Well,
she,
yeah.
I
yeah.
think it was a
Oh,
while.
see, I
When
took
you
it
got
like a
Amy
couple
Adams on the
weeks.
case, like
Easy money.
Yeah.
Former Smallville guest star Amy Adams.
Yeah.
I thought Jeremy Renner was gonna be like an asshole throughout the movie because his introduction
When he
is
first showed up, I thought he was gonna
like, yeah,
be. a
he's
dick.
like science will figure out everything. You know,
science nerd, science fucking
we'll
dork.
communicate to them with science.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad they did that because they kind of showed how like it kind of made her seem more impressive that he was so like blown away by the stuff.
Well,
she was
that's
doing.
one of the things I liked is how intelligent she was throughout like the whole movie. Even like in the beginning when she like, tells the kangaroo story and she was like, "Yeah, it was a lie, but it conveyed the message that I wanted,"
Yeah.
and that's all that mattered. It's like she knew he didn't know that, and that's all.
Well,
she knew.
I liked
was
it in the
fucked up.
beginning. That was
Well,
kinda
I
fucked
felt like
up.
that was important to her character to understand how well she could. Well, I mean, fuck it. If you're joking, go ahead.
Yeah, it was fucked up because I was like, "Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
I
I-
didn't know that." I was like, "You made that
I
up."
did
I was
that.
like, I
We're not-
paused.
wait,
Yeah.
Didn't Jeremy Renner leave her? Like, didn't she
Yeah,
like
I
leave
bet.
her and her daughter? Yeah,
But
so he's
did
kind of
you-
an asshole.
No, that hasn't
No,
happened
no,
yet.
let me
No,
let me
no, no, no,
explain.
no.
in
That-
the
that hasn't
story-
happened.
It's also
that-
before.
that hasn't happened yet.
Not that.
yeah.
Wait,
He
whoa, whoa,
left her
whoa,
because
whoa.
she intentionally omitted like
The
pretty
truth.
horrible information from him.
Yeah, she
Hmm.
knew that their daughter would die, and then she chose to not tell him right away, but told him down the line. So I guess she kind of knew that would happen.
Yeah, she also knew he would leave.
Yeah, so she did it all with that
She was like,
awareness.
"Ah, that's fine.
I mean, I'd be
but,
pissed too if you just didn't tell me that.
Yeah, but I kind of thought that was a really good way to show like how much a child means to a parent, though. The fact that she was willing to go through all that just to spend like, however
Yeah.
many years with the kid. I thought that was cool.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
kind of like this alien species is sort of like interacting with like a kid, like teaching them things. You know?
Yeah.
True.
Comparatively to them, we were like kids. Like we had no clue what was going on. I didn't expect them to kill one. I forget they called him Abbott and Costello, right? I forget. I think it's Abbott that dies.
Yeah.
One of them dies.
Yeah.
Abbott
They-
does.
Does he die because
they
of
can-
the
Explosion.
Explosion?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that really
yeah.
how?
With
I
The one that
wonder-
pushed him away.
I wondered if they were.
Yeah, 'cause-
Go
The
ahead,
one
Paul.
ran away. Remember?
Well, I was
He,
gonna
like,
say
kinda
they
swam
locked
away.
the explosion in their chamber
Yeah.
or whatever to save them.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
but like what I was wondering is like, I don't know, like is at the very end when like, you know, she figures out she saves the day, you know, and all of the ships like disappear. I wonder. I don't know if like necessarily if they were like, you know, leaving, like, you know, traveling at the speed of light to go back to wherever they came from, or if that like they were all dying and like they were trying to pass off their language to the humans before they all died.
Well, it
They
said
have
they
a-
would need their help in 3,000 years.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's implied that they did that so they could get to where they are. Like they
Okay.
knew that this was important to the cycle. But I actually looked up the translation for what she said, the wife, when the father, or not the father, I don't know why I called him father, but the military leader, I
Papa.
forget his daddy Sung, I think.
General Shang.
General
General
Chang. She in Chinese she said in I'm gonna be so pissed I can't remember this. Something about in war only widows are made or something like that. Ah man, I'm gonna have to look it up real quick.
Oh, that's,
I
okay,
had,
that's interesting.
yeah, I'm looking up
Oh.
real quick.
'Cause she
So
does-
do you guys want to talk about something else?
I wonder because like she mentions like the Sanskrit word for war at the beginning.
I love.
Yeah, that was super interesting, but I didn't know what that meant because I don't actually know what the Sanskrit word for war
Well,
is.
I
so-
just know she knew the Berkeley dude would fuck it up, and she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
had that like slam dunk ready.
Yeah,
But also-
she honestly
also-
dunked on his
also-
ass. Yeah.
How did Forrest Whitaker know what that meant? Like, so she said that to him, could have meant anything.
I think he asked them both, and then he liked her answer better. I think he
Yeah.
just
It's probably
He liked
why.
it better. That was it.
Because
Yeah.
like he was gonna try and give like a sort of like hoity-toity answer, and she gave like a very honest like, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of like had asked for more cows.
Yeah, more cows.
Yeah.
War doesn't make winners, only widows. That's what she says.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that there was no way to win. Which I feel like is a very good quote giving the movie because they were going to go to war over nothing in the end, but they didn't know that, of course.
Yeah, the aliens were friendly.
Yeah,
Here's
and
the
they're-
real-
Well, I think
Go ahead, Cole. You first.
you're on
uh,
topics. I feel like
you know,
Cole is going off.
the whole point, right, of the aliens getting there was to prevent conflict. I think weren't they kind of implying that
Do you
eventually,
think that's what they were there for?
inevitably?
There was
Yeah,
some
I-
some
Oh,
kind
wait,
of
so
calamity.
I didn't get that, but maybe they were trying to stop us from destroying ourselves.
I thought they
Yeah,
were trying
so
to
that's
like
part
keep,
of it.
bring us together.
That was my
like,
understanding.
because what
I
Gary's
never even
going,
interpreted
all
that because
different-
what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
'cause this was a funny thing I was gonna ask. What happened after in the movie? Like, so she just wrote this book. Like, we're supposed to know she wrote this book, but nothing changed about
I
the
think-
human
I think it
race
was
after
just-
that.
No,
I think
what
it
do
was
you
just they said they made some sort of coalition.
Yeah,
and
they-
I think
they
it was understood
unified.
that like we're
Look,
not
if
going
we
to nuke
could
each
see
other
the
after
future,
that.
it would be a lot of fucking changes besides that, though. Like, the whole world would have, in like a week, it would be completely different.
Yeah,
Nate,
But
if
obviously,
I-
it's a movie. Who gives a fuck?
Nate,
You
most
know?
Yeah,
American
it's
people
just
don't
like-
know how to speak English. I don't
just
think they're
like
gonna
this-
learn alien language.
Hey, but if you know it makes you see the future, you'd be like,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
No, I
Like,
think it's, yeah.
Realistically, they would like put Amy Adams in a box and be like, "All right, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen?" Just be
If we're
there,
talking about
waiting
the
to have
real ending.
flashbacks.
Yeah, she's like a
If she-
threat
he would have never had that kid.
to the world.
if you knew you were gonna have a kid and they were
He
gonna
is virtually
die
a
at,
god.
like,
And they never
the
bring
age
that
of
up.
12, do you still have the kid?
No.
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
morally
maybe
wrong
it
to have
depends
the
on
kid?
this. It depends on what I see.
If I think
That's
from her
limited.
perspective, she saw all of the
memories
good memories
have.
that she was going to have with the
Isn't that
kid.
selfish though?
Well, I think that's one of the important.
Rather
Well, if
be
the
born
kid got to
than not.
live, it wouldn't have lived otherwise.
Yeah,
but
I would.
one of
rather
the
it
important
live.
ideas of the story is if you know the outcome, because I mean, in the truth, we all know we're gonna die eventually.
Yeah.
Like I felt like there was a lot of symbolism for death, like the tunnel in the movie that they go through. I saw this immediately is like a tunnel, like it's a big tunnel, and then there's a big light at the end, like kind of. I feel like that was what it was implying, but I don't. It was so subtle, it might not have been, and I just might be overreading it. But that's how I took it, like a light at the end of the tunnel. And so like you're gonna die, so you can't hesitate. to live because of that. That's stupid. That's
Jeremy
the
Renner
worst thing
says
you
that.
could do. Oh, does
Soon
he? I
as-
don't even remember
after
that.
she takes off like the hazmat suit and he goes, "Fuck, we're all gonna die." I don't think he says
Yeah.
fuck, but he's like, well, we're all gonna
Not
die. He
allowed.
just takes
They
it
only
off.
get one of those.
You can't have you can't have you
get
can't
one
have
fuck.
the good moments in life without the bad as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
But the
like, I mean,
bad
if you have a
elevates the
kid,
good.
I think that was kind of the point. Is if you have a kid, you know the risk that they might die at any point. Like that
But
is
if you
part
know
of-
they are going to die, does it become selfish?
Well,
Because
but
you wanna
I
show us
that
feel
they're
like,
going to
look,
die.
I mean, like that's kind of a personal question. I think the movie is pointing out the fact that asking yourself that in the first place is the like where it's like, well, you don't know. You know, I mean, they might be happy, they might hate. That's not for you to decide. Like the kid decides that at the end of the day. Like you can't decide that anyway. So if you truly care, you just do it. You know, if it's what you truly want.
Amy Adams at that point already has the memories of the kid. Like it's almost as if she has already had the kid.
Yeah, so she could
Yeah,
just
like-
not do it.
The parent to like,
Well,
you know,
That's-
essentially
that's-
kill their kid and like destroy all those memories is like, I don't know. I don't even know that
Yeah.
there is a choice that Amy Adams even has to make at that point.
Well,
Yeah.
that's where the question of destiny comes in. Like, is their fate decided, or did she choose that fate? Like, she could have just not had the kid, or did she have to
yeah.
have the kid because she saw it? It's just that's kind of
she
interpretation
had a
because you can't
choice.
know. I would agree, but that's why I'm saying it's kind of interpretation.
I
Like, if you
suppose
see
it's
it,
like your destiny is forged by you. Like sort of
Yeah.
thing.
I would agree that it's definitely like up to you. Like, she chose.
Can
to live
fate
that
and
life.
free will exist like together? Like that's
I don't think
that's
so.
the question.
No, I guess not in the like classic sense of fate.
Yeah, at least not in the classic sense.
As long as you feel as though what you're doing are your own choices, I guess like it doesn't ultimately matter.
When you open up the time travel stuff, it's just a complete can of worms of like, well, what
Well,
does
she
this
doesn't
imply? What does
time
that imply?
travel.
Yeah, but that's what this movie does. Though.
I would-
It
I mean, it kind of is.
the movie
it's kind
opens
of-
that
You know-
can of worms up.
Yeah.
She doesn't time travel. She just remembers things that haven't
She
happened
sees
yet.
the future.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a super
Yeah.
interesting topic, the idea of learning a language. Because I guess you would have to learn about their culture to learn a language, for one, like
Yeah.
going with that theory. If we're looking at the theory in the positive, obviously learning the culture, you would adopt some of their habits. You know, because you have
Yeah.
to learn a language. You can't learn
Yeah.
a language without
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I
Realistically.
think the point is like the way that you speak is how you think.
Yeah, they
And
mentioned
Well,
like
I think
Yeah,
it uses
exactly,
the
yeah.
idea of actual speaking just as a blatant I can't think of a good word for it, but for communication, like it's actually just talking about in general communication, like all of it, like the way you act, the way you move, the way you talk, the way you
Yeah.
dress. Like that's all just us trying to show something to someone else, you know? Like you're trying
Adams- She brings that kind of up where she writes a sample question out. She's like, we don't even know if they're acting on instinct, if they would even know what a question is, if they have
Yeah.
like this. Like she brings up all that stuff, and that's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that would probably affect like the way their language is written. Really affect.
Well, I mean,
like,
just
it's a
looking at
reflection of
English
your expression.
from other languages, like we put different just in the structure, we put
Yeah.
nouns at different places in the sentence, and that could be for different reasons, or we talk the way we refer to certain objects can differ. Our or even our pronouns, even the way we use pronouns is so different from different languages. Like Spanish, they use it for objects, which like who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
But it's like an
Very true.
object. But
Yeah, it's real
That's
weird.
just-
And that I don't know really anything about like Eastern languages like Japanese or Chinese, but like the way they describe like the circle as like it's like an idea, it's not even really a sentence.
Yeah.
Aren't a lot of words like that in Chinese kind of
well,
like,
it's more similar to hieroglyphics, which is
Yeah.
so Chinese uses symbols that like usually represent something, but
in
I've
Japanese,
never-
like the individual symbols represent like syllables rather than like
yeah.
parts of the
Oh.
word, parts of the
Yeah.
sound.
Well, that's the thing is I think Chinese is now like more of a language where it's just like symbols represent sounds, but they used to represent a lot of the symbols they used to represent
Like ideas.
objects. Yeah, so like there's like symbols for fire and stuff like that. So that's kind of a complicated one to say, but like when you do like compare it to hieroglyphics and stuff like that, where it's just pictures that mean something, I think, and just knowing the context of what they're saying is what lets you know what it means. Is more what it's comparable to, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that well.
So
She
I think I
actually
get
is
it.
a
It's tough to explain another.
She actually is.
Well,
a
I'm
genius,
also
honestly.
not an expert. So I'm kind of talking out of my ass.
Amy Adams secretly has like an IQ of like 220.
to figure
That's
to
what I
figure
liked
out
about
like
how smart she
the
was in that movie.
to figure out the variation in like little squibbles at the very end of like the circle is like
Bro, they
insane.
just put a circle. Every time they just threw a circle up on the screen, and you're supposed to know what that means.
I
Like,
did like
They're literally like, get a load of this. What
I
do you
did
think this
like
was?
fuck with this guy.
I did like during like the bomb scene, like when the part of the ship got like blown up by those guys.
Wiggins.
Rascals.
Those rascals, yeah. Those I like that the one I think it was Costello made the effort to like try and communicate like how she was, where he started tapping on the glass.
Yeah,
I thought that was
Oh,
interesting. Like
it was super interesting that they were like
Yeah.
copying them. I
Yeah,
know exactly
like,
what you're talking about.
They finally made a method.
Honestly,
an effort
as
to,
weird as
like,
that was,
perfectly
I
do
thought it was kind of cute. You
Yeah,
know,
well,
like
again, they're cute.
the
They-
moment where they start
Yeah.
to like relate a little bit.
There
That
was
really,
another. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for lack of a better word, that really humanized them. Where it was
Yeah.
like, oh, they're like making a
Humanized
you
feels
could,
like a weird
identify
word.
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
it
could
feels like a
identify with
weird
them.
word when you're talking about aliens. Yeah, like it made them feel real, like something you
Yeah.
would care about.
I think humanized is the right word because it's like
It's
before that
our
they were like
word.
just beings, and it was like what like they're just like acting, and we're left to interpret it.
in
Heptamized.
the way,
Hit
in
it.
the way
Showed an
we
effort on their part.
humanize,
They're being
it's
heptamized.
absolutely the correct word, but it sounds weird because of the fact that we use human in it, but they're not
Yeah.
human. You know what I mean? Or what we decide is human.
There was another example of them kind of trying to be like us. It was one of the people from the other countries were talking in the video call. And
Whoa,
they-
whoa, whoa.
And yeah, kind
Whoa,
of like
whoa, whoa, not like us. They're not quite there.
Uh,
They're not at that level.
yeah, I mean, it was probably.
I think it was
not,
Pakistan.
They're ugly.
I'm not.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and yeah, I think it was actually. But they were saying they played audio for them. They're playing like their own speech back at them, and the aliens responded by like
Using their
playing
words.
human sounds back at them. Yeah, but
Oh,
It was-
that's
I think it was literally
that was
repeating
cool.
their sentences, right?
or something
Yeah.
they said like previously. Yeah.
Which is one of the things, like, you don't know what the fuck these aliens can do. Like, it seems like they could just do whatever they need to at any time because, like, they can control gravity and shit. They can just
Yeah.
create this weird writing. That's
See
one
the
thing about
future.
this movie. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, they can see the future, but they also have physical forms and get blown up by C4. Like, from everything I've seen,
Yeah.
why the fuck couldn't they
It's
just
better.
stop that?
I'll take that than them being like weak to water or something like that.
Yeah.
Whoa,
That's
whoa,
why
whoa,
I
are
was
you talking
confused
shit
that-
on a really good movie?
I was confused that Costello died because it was like, oh, he got blown up, but he was in like an alien ship. And then,
What? Why did
like,
they
he was
break the
protected
glass?
behind
They
the
could have
glass.
just broke the glass. It turns out
That's
this whole
why-
time it was
I
just
don't think they were
regular glass.
trying to like live though. Like I think their goal was
I
just
wonder
to
if
like
they
Well, they
were
weren't there for
humans.
war. They
But I
weren't
wonder.
there.
I
For
wonder if they were again. Like it makes me like my head canon is that like they were dying from something and wanted to like communicate to us now or something like that.
Yeah, but see, that's interesting. But the problem with that is when like you could take it that way and just make the movie more interesting. But the problem is since the movie doesn't show that, you can't help but interpret it the other way as well. Like so,
Yeah.
it's like why didn't they just do something? Like at this point, all we saw was they were virtually
Well,
God.
it says they die in 3,000 years, so like they
no,
had
no,
to
no, they
come
don't
and
die. They
Abbott
need
had to
our
die.
help. They need our
Yeah.
I
help.
need help.
Well, without human help, I kind of
Well,
assume
that's
that they
where the
would
question
die.
of fate. Did they really know everything that was going to happen? Like, did they know Abbott had to die or whatever? Or were they making whatever decision they thought was best at that time?
I don't
because
think you
I
can
don't
make
think-
decisions if time isn't linear. Like if you know everything that's going to
Yeah.
happen, then decision making
Well,
doesn't
that's
matter.
the thing. It does. That's where the movie I was asking. Does it imply that they know exactly what's going to happen, or they know it could happen?
There's also I think
What-
a limit to like how
I don't know.
far they can see too.
It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like they see far into the
I
future.
mean, they're
Well,
seeing
all-
3,000 years. Like
Oh, that's true. Never mind. Yeah,
all
that's
right,
true.
all
That's
right,
pretty
all right,
fair.
all right. But all we see from what's her name? Amy Adams. I can't remember the actor. or the
Louise.
character. Louise. Oh yeah, that's her name.
Louise.
Louise is that we only see the kid. She doesn't see anything else really, other than the Chinese general. Other than that, she only sees the kid. Which is why I wonder if they had any control over that, or like that's all she saw. Like, why? So that's another thing that's like uncertain to me. Why
was
that's
it
the only
weird?
thing
She sees her teaching that alien language in a class. Like I think it was just things that were really important to her. Like it shows her.
Oh yeah, she does
having the
do that. I forgot about that second part in the class.
My
Yeah.
interpretation was that you could see the past, the present, and the future all.
Did
in
she
the
ever
same
see
light.
the past though? That's a thing.
We can
too.
all see the past.
I think we're led to
Yeah.
believe that was the
That's fair.
past, though.
Yeah.
That was like a
Yeah.
misleading. Like you thought that like, oh, her daughter did die in the past.
Yeah. It was definitely.
But-
supposed
But it's
to-
all the
I
same.
thought-
Like
that's
the
what I
past,
thought at
present, and the
first.
future are all like.
Yeah,
I-
it's like cyclical. in a way.
Once you can
Yeah.
speak that
The
this,
thing is, we never
alien
see
circle
any
language,
past,
then you-
so
then you
you know
know
what I
everything.
mean. If you never show the past, I can't just assume that. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, my
Everyone can
original interpretation,
past.
I
Who has
thought the
memories?
aliens were like, I
Yeah.
thought they were able to communicate through memories. I thought that the,
Yeah,
like,
I
before
think
we
that's
knew
what it
that
was.
her future.
There was one weird scene where they were like, "What are you dreaming about?" And I didn't know if he said that to her in the dream, or like she dreamt that,
that
or
was
he
in the
said that to
dream.
her.
I-
and
I
then she-
wouldn't-
okay.
I wanted to get
wasn't
into
sure-
that.
I wasn't sure whether she
What was
woke
it?
up or
What?
he said that and then she woke up in the dream, or the dream happened.
Before I knew her daughter was like the future, I thought that the aliens were altering memories of her, like communicate information. Like they couldn't do it through
Yeah,
the language;
right.
they could do it through like brain signals or some shit. I thought that I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like if they can actually
Why-
like alter your memory to communicate.
Why did they have the bird? That confused me. Like it was like such a cool
Oxygen.
like.
Yeah.
Is
See
that what
if
it's
they
for?
could breathe the air.
Are you
See-
sure?
see if he died, they can't breathe the air.
Well,
Yeah,
why the
that's what
fuck
I
did they
thought.
have the hazmat suits on anyway? Then they had the
Radiation.
oxygen.
Radiation, disease.
Yeah, but they had the oxygen masks on too. Now that just
You
makes
got to
me wonder
protect
about-
yourself from the alien juices.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
true.
Yeah.
That's true. We don't know. We don't know if they could get diseases or anything.
Maybe too they were gonna study the bird after to see like if he was
'Cause I-
getting fucked up.
The whole time I thought that was like a language thing, like somehow that was getting them to talk, but then it never came up again. And I maybe I just missed when they mentioned the oxygen thing.
If I was
just
the alien, it would have
paid
been
attention.
super distracting to just have this bird
Yeah,
going nuts.
it was
I'd be like, "Who the fuck
annoying,
is that
right?
guy?
It was like
Yeah.
it was going call, and I was
Who's-
like, bro,
who's
I'm trying
that
to
one?"
talk, bro.
Yeah.
Like, can you shut that bird up?
the alien. They want to talk to the bird instead, not the human.
That would have been really funny if they had like ended up liking a different species more. And we're like, they didn't want to help us anymore. They figured it out before us, like a bird did.
This species of bird is going to die in 3,000 years.
Okay, one thing that I thought was like, this is a very nitpicky, but I noticed it. When Ian writes his name on the whiteboard, instead of doing a capital I as like with the line, you know what I'm talking about? He did it with just a
Yeah.
straight up line down. It's like, that could be an L. That is like gonna confuse the
Yeah,
shit out of those
they're like,
guys.
oh, he's land.
Well,
It's land.
They
I
don't know
was
what
like-
they don't know what an L is. Only W.
Yeah, but
No,
now
but,
when
like,
they
when they
figured
go
it
to learn
out,
it,
yeah,
when
when
they
they
go
go
to
to
learn
learn
it,
it,
they're
they're
gonna
gonna be
think,
confused.
yeah.
But she also
That went over
Sam,
your
her
head
name's
sometimes, but-
Louise. She typed it.
Yeah, but
as
she
an L.
she did it with but that lowercase is
Yeah, that makes
lowercase
it
L is
more
that way.
confusing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
There's,
it
like,
more confusing.
giving them
wait, did-
information that they know, like how we would
Well,
interpret that is like
Did she type
oh,
it as a capital?
that
L or
letter
like
is an
lowercase
I.
L?
He said she did
He
capital.
did
I don't
everything
remember.
capital.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
all
wouldn't be
cap.
that bad. If they were consistent and they made every capital I like that, I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, a lowercase L
But-
looks like
They didn't
a
do anything
capital I.
lowercase though.
Okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
we're at some
Yeah,
point
but
that
that's
come
like,
up.
yeah,
Yeah, at
that's
some
like
point.
If you're trying to communicate with an alien, you don't need
We're
to teach them the
nitpicking this
difference
movie,
between
guys. Stop
uppercase
fucking
and fucking
ruining it.
lowercase.
you definitely
like, come
do
on.
because they're
Thank you,
gonna
Chris.
take that and they're gonna fill in all the knowns
Yeah.
and the unknowns and then like try to like connect the dots and they're gonna put
No,
every
but if you
single
only
known
speak
would
English,
lowercase L
there's
as
no
ever
dots
come
to
up?
connect.
Why
Yeah,
would lowercase
exactly.
ever come up?
Might.
Yeah.
Dude, this is
Yeah.
like
No,
a
it can't.
conversation too with the
Is
aliens.
L only at the start of a word like love? You don't
No,
think they
you
ask
only
love?
you only
No, that
like
is absolutely
Only
Right,
use
well,
capital
well,
letters
it's
for
letters.
every letter.
They're gonna mix up the L and I. In,
Clear.
who cares?
In
oh,
light
oh no.
speed.
Oh no, the
Look,
pronoun.
let's take
or
it out of the
the-
movie. Let's take it
the
out of the movie.
the
At
proper
some
noun
point,
isn't
at some
capitalized. I don't know,
point,
they can't understand what we're saying.
at some point, that'd be a problem. That'll eventually
I
be a
disagree.
problem.
They're not
Yeah,
writing
yes,
essays.
you can speak fluent English without ever knowing what a lowercase letter is.
You couldn't read it. That's what the whole thing they were
Yeah, you
doing.
can.
is
Yeah, they're
reading.
using
they-
reading.
You
They-
can read it. What do you
they-
mean? If you
spoken language.
if a book was only written in uppercase, you could still understand what it said.
What books are only
who
written in
writes a book
uppercase?
like that? What are you talking about?
If it was, what do you mean?
Hold on.
If we're
not,
talking
Cole,
ifs,
Cole raised his hand.
we're not teaching the aliens to read a book. We're teaching them to
Yeah,
understand
Exactly.
basic
We're only
commands.
we're only writing in uppercase. They can only understand in
Yeah,
uppercase. We don't
there's no
never.
way
Why would
that
we
them
have to
programs
teach
can
them
communicate in
hypothetical
lowercase
letters.
letters.
Thinking,
They think-
Why would
hypothetical-
we have to teach them two different versions of the same letter to overcomplicate the entire
Yeah,
language
exactly.
for no
Did that,
reason?
though.
Exactly.
It would matter. That would absolutely matter. In
No,
real
it
life.
wouldn't. Cole's right.
It would come
Yeah.
up eventually. Like if we tried to all right, look, assuming
It
it wasn't
wouldn't.
like, look, all right, let's change the story of the movie. Fuck you, Chris.
Hey Nate,
Change the movie.
every letter on your shirt is capitalized. I can't read it.
This is a
Exactly.
t-shirt. This is a
Get
Oh my
t-shirt.
god,
Get
dude.
him. Put him in the dirt.
Look, this
Oh,
has the
yours.
thing.
Yours is all caps and the I is spelled that way. The other way.
All right, we're just gonna show them fucking graphic
Okay.
t-shirts. That's how we're gonna communicate is graphic t-shirts.
If Amy
That's
Adams
fine.
can understand their language, I'm
What
sure
does this
they
one
can tell
say?
the difference between uppercase and lowercase.
Buy our merch.
Look,
Did learn
Yeah,
that.
buy-
eventually
buy-
it's
buy our
a problem.
merch.
You're
We
not
can buy 'em.
convincing me otherwise. Buy our merch. Buy our clothes.
Hey.
Buy our clothes. Buy our clothes.
They think
Well,
Promise
that
it's not
Disagree.
this low on the shirt
Disagree.
anymore.
they think that we're just screaming at them all the time because like that's what all uppercases are for.
But
Louise.
if we never, if we never told them that's what it means, then it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Holy shit,
Yeah.
dude! My throat was just clogged.
Chris, I'd give you a hug if we were in the same room.
Thank you.
He'll give you a
I would
hug.
interrupt the hug.
like,
I'd step
5
on
years from
both
now.
people.
Look, we're talking about time linearity. Eventually, that would be a problem. Like they knew
Alright.
eventually that would be a problem. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
they
couldn't they
knew
just
that
see into
going
the
into it.
future to when
Yeah.
they already understood us?
Yeah,
and just
why did
come with the language?
why didn't they just speak to us in English?
Yeah.
Why didn't they
Yeah.
just help us translate it? Like, why are they being dicks about it? Like, they're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we can help you, but you got to figure it out.
Because if nobody teaches them and nobody seeks to interpret that, then that would never happen.
They didn't try to
You
write
could-
in English.
Yeah, why wouldn't you
We
seek to
spoke
interpret
their
it if
language.
you were like, yo, we got a new language for you. It just dropped. It just
They would still have
dropped.
to teach the aliens
I-
at some point. Is my
Look,
that's
I'm
my
just
point.
saying they could have communicated. This whole movie is about how difficult it is to communicate. If there's anything I could tell you, making it more difficult to understand what you're talking about is not making it easier for them to figure it out.
What do you mean more difficult? I don't.
Yeah, when did that happen?
They don't teach like so. Assuming that they could have like spoke to us in our language, like just assuming that that was true. Which why couldn't they? There's no reason for me to assume they
Because we
couldn't.
haven't taught them yet.
But they know the future, so
Right,
they,
but
it
if
doesn't
there's not
matter.
somebody there, if Amy Adams wasn't there, they never know. They never get
They,
taught
they
how to
know
speak.
anyway. So that could have been just
because of Amy Adams. Because
Okay,
of Louise.
Yeah, and once Amy Adams shows up, the future's like set. So why do they need? Well, I mean, that comes to the fact is, do they have to live that out to know, or do they already know?
Seems like
But
things still have
we
to
already
happen
know.
for that
What I'm
future to
getting
happen.
live
to
it
is
out
this
to
is
know.
why you can't put time travel in a movie. It
no,
just
it's both.
it
They
just
have
doesn't make any
they
sense.
already know, but they have to live it out and experience the Amy Adams
So,
teachings.
Yeah.
so then
to
you're
know.
taking so that goes back to the fake question. Do you think like they were stuck having to live that in that order, or do you think that they chose to
There
do
is
that
no
because
order.
that was the best outcome?
But they don't see
They-
it in
But
order.
there is if you think they had to do that to get to
We-
point B.
We should have just showed them
No.
Back to the Future, and this all would have sorted itself out.
That's
They would
thinking the way that
they would have saw the picture.
That's thinking the way that humans think in this movie, not the way that the aliens
Yeah,
think.
they
The
think
aliens think
differently,
non-linearly.
But that's why I'm asking you. I mean, just they have to live
this
through a
is hard to
linear
figure out.
timeline. Though. That's why I'm asking you. They have to live.
No, they
through a
don't. They don't
linear
have to live through a
timeline.
linear
Okay,
timeline.
but what if
But
one of
we
their-
do. So why?
one
So
of the
if they
technical
don't,
people
Amy
was
Adams
based on
does
the
it?
1950s.
Amy Adams doesn't because she can
but
speak
if,
the
if
language.
they don't, then why couldn't they have just spoke our language?
What if one of the tentacle people goes back in time and asks his mom to prom in the 1950s?
What if he fucks his own mother at the start of the movie? Does it fuck everything up?
But I was kind of wondering if you'd ask me to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance on Saturday.
They don't have the vocal cords to be able to make our sounds.
But they can write. It's shown
play
that they
guitar.
can write.
Like Costello, listen to this.
Listen to this.
Whoa.
That's actually where we got the name Abbott and Costello. What if they had like a recording where we're
Oh
like,
my God.
whoa, Abbott and Costello are spitting, and it's like back in time, and it's them.
They're spitting.
All right.
This is your cousin, Abbott.
I had something.
Abby?
I had something really important that came up when I was watching this that I didn't think of before.
Sure.
when they were first going out and they were all in those orange suits, and maybe it's because we kind of started playing the game again,
Oh,
but
no,
did they
stop
not
it.
look like imposters?
The one guy was because he planted a
That-
bomb.
they did. There was an imposter among them. Yeah.
because they had the
Whoa.
like screen. They
Wait.
were all big and orange, and then they had giant
spaceship.
backpacks in the back.
Did
And
they
it's
like?
kinda
Did
perfect.
it ever show them in
Doing
there
tasks.
after they?
Everyone
did
was
they-
doing a task.
They were
I-
doing,
I
they were doing
thought it was-
tasks. Yeah.
super funny in that movie that they were like watching the news and they got like gaslit into committing a terrorist attack, essentially a terrorist.
They were
attack
watching
on
Alex Jones equivalent. Alex
it.
Jones.
Yeah, pretty Alex Jones equivalent.
Yeah.
Just
That
someone
was
like we
the
have to do
straight up
something.
news, right?
Yeah, I think it was public.
No.
All right, well, let's talk about
no,
let's talk about the
the
difference
No,
Chinese-
in the
between.
military camp, they were watching it like on the computer, like on a website, and that's
Yeah,
like.
that was
that's
But it was
adjacent.
like a news channel, wasn't it?
No, because it's
the-
similar
That's
to like.
private
No,
military
I mean like news
communication.
channels have like the same amount of like set like money
No,
that goes
'cause-
into their set as like people that just get paid
No,
on
because
YouTube.
like I see
Literally
it more
me.
because like Alex
You look like you could do it.
Alex Jones is like only ever on the internet. Like he's not like on a cable network, and like that's kind of the way I saw it. So
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, I mean, you could get cable
They were
networks
all-
online.
That seemed like just random old guy online ranting. Like
Yeah,
that
It
didn't
could have
seem
been.
like
I don't remember it
news
too well,
anchor.
to be honest.
Didn't
that part's
the
like kind of
Chinese
gone.
said that they broke the news that like the aliens told us their phrase was "use weapon."
yeah,
No,
And that
they
was like
they
a
got a
news report. That
call,
was like on like a morning news.
yeah.
They- I
That's
think-
different.
I
from what
think-
we're talking about.
That's not what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
but I
Oh.
think it was like they got a call. This is kind of nitpick.
Hold
I don't
on,
know why I'm
maybe
talking
I
about it.
maybe I'm misremembering this.
But
what
they
happened.
they
I
got
thought-
that call, and then someone in America leaked it. Is what happened.
but Sam,
so it
we're
was
Still
like,
not what we're talking
Oh.
about.
And,
Yeah,
and then
but-
and then they planted the bomb, right? That stoked them
Yeah.
planting the bomb, right?
But they saw a video of this guy saying like, "We have to do something. Like we have to
Yeah.
stop this. Like you guys know what to
That's what
do." And he
triggered
was
it?
like
Those
inciting violence.
those soldiers were already getting skeptical to begin with. They were already
Yeah,
like.
yeah, he
afraid.
was talking about people like attacking the government, and then the
I
soldiers
thought
obviously
the-
took it like we need to do something, or like maybe attacking the alien. I don't remember.
Oh shit. Maybe I have the order of events wrong. I thought it was after. I thought that was like all boiling to the point to when they told the Chinese to use weapons.
I
But
think
does the
that-
order
that
of
one
events really
all
matter?
happened.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
speaking
In a
alien language.
movie
they
where
were.
it's like
I was joking.
I just wanted to talk.
No, but am I crazy though? They did look like Among Us characters, though. Can we?
Their
shoes were
anytime they
locked
wear
in.
they wore a hazmat
Among Us
suit.
characters.
They wore a hazmat suit. Like Jesus Christ.
Whoever edits this needs to put them side by side.
I'll look for
and
some.
everyone
What
can
was a
agree
vision
with
for
me.
the edit?
Relative to
Or
how
was telling
tall,
someone else.
relative
They're
to
like
how
5
tall
foot.
the aliens were, we probably looked about the size, like 3'6", like the imposter. I'm just saying.
Those
They're
shoes
not
were
as size, I don't
I'm just
know.
saying the imposters are fat as hell. They're like 3 foot tall, 190 pounds.
No, they're like
big as hell.
96
I
pounds.
think they're 90 pounds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're like 90
All
pounds.
right,
like
well,
third graders.
all right. Like I don't fucking know. Like why did you ruin that for me?
It tells you when you do your.
When you do the scan.
If
It tells you when
did
you do the
test-
medbay scan. It doesn't work for you. I wonder why.
Sounds like someone thought
No,
a crewmate. I don't know.
Wait, so I want to go.
It's got red on his shirt. His
How
red- his
about
red-
I wanted to ask, do you think like where do you think they got the inspiration for the aliens in this movie? Like I have to think that was like intentional.
For the design.
hand,
you mean?
probably.
Do you think it was like the hand because that's what we choose to like write? Like that's kind of what I got. Like that's
That'd
what
be
we
cool.
use to convey our language. Like
Would
this
be
is
cool.
this is a super stupid like fan theory idea. But so since they use like they look like a hand kind of at the bottom and that's how we convey most languages we write and they use like their written language most of the time. That's what I took it as. Is that's why they chose that really weird design for them.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about it.
I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't think too much.
The only
about,
one
like-
super interested in that. I was like, wow, why did they do this?
I just thought they
I
were
don't-
supposed to be like slimy aliens, you know?
Well, I mean, you look when you watch a movie, you
Wow.
should assume that everything
say
they
that
did
about
was
them?
for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's just something that caught me because I thought the design was so cool, like interesting. I don't know about cool was the best answer,
I had
but
actually thought.
I think
that,
they got-
Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, well, okay, this is a bit of a shit post, but I thought that they got the design because when they're standing in like the cloud. It kind of reminds you of like a hot tub,
They
like
were
hot
hit-
tub time machine.
They were hitting the.
It
Ah,
was like
great
kind of
movie,
maybe like
great
that's where
movie.
they got it.
They were hitting.
It's like
I
when
hope
you're in a hot
not
tub,
for
it
that.
gets all steamy. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, they were vaping a lot.
Well,
John, follow it up.
Chilling, Benjamin.
Yeah, please
It
say
was
something to
with the
that.
Blinkerton.
yeah, no. I thought they were gonna be like, because there's two of them and they look like hands. I thought that like it was gonna be like when we do eventually see them, it would just be like a much bigger like entity.
Bigger hand.
That's like two
Yeah.
two
My
hands
God.
of a much larger thing. I thought
It's like
that was
finger
God.
puppets. He's just
Okay.
like
So, what do you think about the design of the spaceship? Because I know that
Very
a
cool.
lot,
unique.
a lot of what I like saw about this movie was that he wanted to, the director wanted to like be different from what you would expect in an alien movie. Like they didn't have like a normal spaceship. It didn't like land, and it wasn't like a saucer. It was like a pebble standing straight up
coffee bean.
to be different. Yeah, it does kind of look like a bean. I definitely think the first shot of it is so cool. Like I know there's a lot of smoke throughout the movie. I don't know if that means anything, but or like clouds, like the first shot where it's like the bottom of it's covered in clouds. I didn't know if that had anything to do with like the spaceship, if it was the spaceship doing that, or that was just some really cool location they chose where like some clouds like come across.
What
the
state was
hillside.
it? Like North Dakota? Or something?
Montana. It was Montana.
Same thing.
The most forgettable state they could have chose.
How many aliens dropped? How many
12.
pebbles?
12.
So it's 12 different nations.
I was wondering if there was importance to that too.
A
Like,
couple
I don't
are in
know.
Russia.
I thought it was like
I don't know if there's any religion that like 12 is important.
I thought it
to
was
or
like, you
anything
know,
like
like-
that.
No, Jeremy Renner does
Okay,
make the
like-
connection.
12 has a lot to do with time, right? Like time.
Oh yeah, the clock. That's right. They
Yeah.
do mention that's 12 hours.
He
on
makes the
clock.
connection that they're like, oh, this one pop song was really popular in these nations in like
Yeah,
1987.
that was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and it might have been why they chose it. Who knows? You know?
I was
Good.
I was
Good
thinking-
reference to statistics, like random statistics.
yeah, he kind of snapped on that. But I was thinking they just landed specifically in places where whatever that future conflict was down the road, like where they thought people would need to come together.
Oh,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
Steve. Once again, that's like kind of that's like an
canon,
interesting-
but
Yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah.
idea, but I don't think the movie ever points to that, right? There's never a point where they say
no.
Yeah, I don't know.
that might be
But
why
I
they
mean,
chose that.
obviously, if you were gonna do that, like you would want one in Russia, China.
It seemed like they chose
in
the
the
most
US.
important countries, at least for
Yeah.
sure. They did China,
the
Russia.
most important.
somewhere-
All the
I wouldn't say
instigators.
most important, but at least get to like it goes to Africa. I think there's
Hit
two
the
in
top
Africa.
3, and then they're like, well,
Yeah.
just put them wherever else.
After that, with Pakistan. We don't need to
Yeah.
mention it.
Venezuela's
I
gonna
don't know.
love this.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any deliberate reason why they landed where they landed.
I don't know if this was intentionally for the people who were going to have to do the visual effects for this, but to have the aliens clouded probably took a shitload of work off of those guys to make the aliens
Oh,
not
yeah.
look goofy.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very smart
Well-
choice because I didn't even think about that till after I watched it. I was like, that would have taken me out of the movie if they looked really bad.
I feel like that served two purposes. One, to do that, save them money and to keep them hidden. And like I said, I thought that was symbolic throughout the movie of like how, I guess, cloudy would be the word for interpretation can be. Like how one person can take things one way and someone can take something a completely different way. Like that's why it's hard to see what you're looking at. Like
Your judgment
why
is clouded.
Yeah, exactly. Like I felt like that was a lot of the point, and maybe I'm
View of the
looking
dark
too
side.
deep into that, but that's what I
Yeah.
saw with that part.
I did want to say really quick, just because Jeremy Renner was in this video, but he did get like involved in that crazy what was it, snowmobile
Snowmobile.
accident. So
Yeah.
Did he
prayers
really?
for the homie.
Well,
Oh,
actually,
Hope he's
he was
feeling up.
filming in Pittsburgh very recently. Like people I know got to meet him and stuff, and said he was a great guy. So of course, like on top of that, I'd like to say I hope he's.
Do you guys have the
Probably
Jeremy
fine.
Renner app downloaded?
What is that?
Forgot about that.
You don't know about the Jeremy Renner app?
No.
You get to,
No.
you get to go. It's like Twitter, but you can specifically like.
But you
talk
could just
towards-
stalk Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner. Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah,
like
I love stalking
it's
celebrities.
just his like DMs as an app.
Tweeting from the hospital right now. Like I'm coming out, guys. I'm doing all right, guys.
Hello, Jeremy.
I hope he still checks that. That'd be really funny.
Hope he watches this.
I mean, yeah, I hope he sees this and knows that we're fans.
Yeah,
at
Jeremy.
Yeah, he texted me and
least.
said
Good movie. Yeah, he hit me
I'll,
up.
I'll tell him to
We're
check it out
there.
after.
I'll tell him to watch.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
He'll respond to me.
He was in the Berg last week. I said, "What's up?"
yeah, some maniac ran him over with a snowcat.
The worst part of Pittsburgh, but so I wanted to ask. I want to talk about as an alien movie. How do you think this movie with subverting expectations and like standing up to them? Like, what do you think? Like,
Well,
I don't know if you guys are big alien movie guys.
well, what are your qualifications or like parameters for an alien
Well,
movie?
You compare them to the average one, which, like I said earlier, was usually like they come and they want to destroy, or at least we assume they want to destroy us. And I definitely feel like the movie played off that, like the idea of that messaging, because most movies, that's what they implant in our brains. Aliens show up, they're going to destroy us or something, or they're trying to take something from us. That's your usual instinct.
I
From
feel
what
like I
we've
haven't
been
seen enough
programmed.
alien movies to like know if this is
Then
like
shut up.
really.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll
thought
shut up.
that's
I'll
one
shut
of
up.
those-
I'll shut up. I'll shut up.
Let the
Go
big
ahead,
boys talk. All right.
Yeah, let the guys know what they're
That's
talking
pretty-
about.
I thought this was pretty realistic to how it would go down. Because if
I
they were going to
definitely
fuck
would
us up,
agree.
they just fucked us up.
Yeah,
like
they would've-
it would have just
It would
happened.
just wrecked our shit already.
They would have shot us from like
Yeah.
5,000 miles away and we'd be dead.
Yeah.
Why would they just land and be like? That's one thing about this movie is like, why would an alien just land and be like, "Come talk to us"? And you're gonna be like, "Oh, obviously they're trying to destroy."
Yeah,
us.
a laser would travel
Yeah.
faster than light across like the galaxy and just blow us up.
Obviously, this is a threat. Like, obviously, they landed here as a threat. Why would you think that? Why would out of anything, like any military guy would be like, "Well, I wouldn't do this," because
Yeah.
I'd just get fucked up. Like, why would I do that? This is clearly a message of communication.
And if they do land, then they're clearly like
int-
so technologically advanced that we
They don't
never
give
be
a
able to
fuck.
fight them.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
what is the point of fighting them? Yeah.
As interesting as that is to see that, it talking realism, if they just landed, they're obviously not trying to attack us because they would have just attacked us. Like
Yeah.
that's mainly the point I'm putting across.
I like the way this movie portrays alien in like the truest sense of like the word. You know, like
I think it was a
not-
good choice to go
not-
gross looking alien, in
well,
my opinion.
not that, but like something that we really don't understand at all. It's kind of like harkening
Well-
back a few episodes ago, like to Annihilation, where that alien was something that like
Human
they,
like.
they just didn't opposite of that. They just didn't understand it. It was something like beyond what we really are able to know. Because like a scene in this movie that I really liked to kind of emphasize that was when they're first being like on like the hydraulic lift taken up into the ship, and Jeremy Renner is like,
They do just take a hydraulic
Gotta
lift in
easy
there.
up.
Sorry, John, but that was so funny. I
They ca-
forgot that's how they get
they
in.
can't lower the ship any lower. Like they have to just be a couple inches off the ground.
So yeah, if we just didn't have an hydraulic lift, we'd be fucked.
Yeah,
They
like-
wanted to flex that they could
Wait a
control
minute.
gravity.
Wait,
They wanted
wait,
them
wait,
to like
let's-
float and then
Oh,
hit the
true,
This
side.
goes to something I talked about. Yeah, they was just so the filmmaker could show off. Let's be honest. But why the fuck did they send an elevator down at the end for Amy Adams? But they didn't do that for the rest of the movie. Like they could have just built them up there.
All
Did you
right.
finish your thought, John?
No. No, but he's like, it like puts a huge emphasis on him like putting his hand up to the ship itself, about to touch it, and like finally touching it, and it's like, wow, like I'm touching something that is not from this world. Like I thought that was like a really cool way of emphasizing like just the true like, you know, just not
Just how-
understandable nature of what
It
they're
makes it
dealing
feel
with.
more realistic, like what it's like for them to deal with that. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they do a good job of that for sure.
They did a good job of making you feel the weight of the moment. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just
Them like throwing up after.
a Tuesday, you know.
Yeah. They have the fate of the world pretty much in their hands to figure that shit out.
It's just an average Tuesday in Montana.
Yeah, that's what you do every month.
Dog, I gotta get out of Montana.
Oh shit!
Fuck,
no.
dude.
I thought it was. I figured they would have done a little bit more with Jeremy Renner trying to communicate via math. That's something that we have actually done, like on Voyager, like the very first like thing
Yeah.
we sent out with cameras. Have this weird like
Well, that's why it makes
description
sense
on it.
with them
is
right in
like-
front of us.
It's like a depiction of like a hydrogen atom. It's something super
Yeah,
weird. Like
because
it's
we like
yeah,
assume that like mathematics is like the
Really?
universal.
Universal.
we
Yeah.
figured that like hydrogen's the most common element, and we like encoded that. If you could put up a picture, whoever edits this, it's really like cool looking, and they have like based off of that diagram like a sub diagram to decode. It's really cool, but
Yeah.
like
Because like they say
Yeah.
the ship is like the chemical compound of the ship is like nothing like they'd ever seen before.
Yeah, they couldn't figure out anything about it at all, really, like why it floats, because it doesn't like change anything.
It doesn't
I
emit
feel like
like
yeah.
sonic vibrations or light waves.
They couldn't figure out how it flies.
I did think of one thing when I was watching this movie. Amy Adams' character could be the single most successful gambler of all time if she decided to play blackjack or something after this. Like,
Back to the Future, dude. It all goes back to Back to the Future.
That's what I was gonna say. She's virtually a god at this point.
Yeah.
Like, what does her life become after that? Like, so
she should.
do we assume she knows the future going forward, and that
She
she
knows
chooses
her
to just
future.
be a mother? She chooses to just be a
Yeah.
mother, like she couldn't just go to the casino,
Well,
like
She
Cole
sells
said?
those books. I'm sure she's making a ton of money.
Yeah, well,
I
And
think
her
the
house
present
really
is
nice
no
already.
different than the future. For
Did
her.
she know the books would make a ton of money? Like, is she just
Probably.
profited?
At that,
Yeah,
at
I'd
that
have a
point-
kid too if it was on my destiny of being cool. Like, who cares?
Damn.
Yeah, that's just the can of worms, dude. Because can she? Then it comes back to like, does she actually have any choice, or does she
Yeah,
see
that's what
every
it always
possible
comes back
outcome
to.
of every
Yeah,
choice?
does learning the alien language like remove your free will as soon as
Yeah.
you learn it?
I
Like
think
that,
it's-
that's
but
kind of like the
that's
question
an
the movie
interesting
asks.
question, though. I don't think that's what the movie is trying to imply.
I
But
no, I
think-
don't think so either.
I think any
Oh, I think
relevant
it-
thought
I think it
after
is.
that would make you think that, though, because it doesn't really imply otherwise.
Because she also asked the question, if you saw your life like in its entirety, would you change anything?
Which I'd like
Um,
to say right at the
Why would
start.
she ask that if she
Oh,
doesn't
God.
have a choice? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
True. But
Yeah,
that
that's
movie, but that's what I wanted to say. There's a cool visual motif in the movie throughout that. Like when she does that opening monologue, I talked about this in the last episode, but it's or another episode, but it's more important in this one. It starts with the linear shot where it's like all straight lines. It's that window. Do you remember the window she's always looking out in her house?
Yeah.
And it's like 4 segments. Yeah, it's all straight lines. But when she's talking about how time isn't linear, it's a curved hallway. Or,
Oh, I
or
didn't
when
get
she
that.
Just like the alien language is the circle.
yeah, that's one of the coolest parts. All right, Chris, go fuck yourself. But there's
sorry,
a bunch
I
of
didn't
that
get it.
throughout the movie with things being not straight, like a
But,
shot
yeah.
at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like her class, I think, being non-linear. I feel like I couldn't fully interpret whether the purpose of that was her, like, or maybe being on education itself, you know, or whether that had to do with her, like memory, like a hint towards the fact that this isn't linear. Because like Cole brought up, and I forgot about till he said it. The one part of her class where she's talking about the book is about this language, not the other language that she's taught, like or other languages that she's talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember that until Cole brought it
Yeah.
up. So
There was another thing that I thought, like, I really liked about this movie. I don't know if anyone else would agree, but I really liked the music, specifically in the first scene,
Yeah.
and then that scene with all the memories.
Yeah.
I love that song. I think it was perfect.
I wanted to
for
say that
scene.
that's not an original soundtrack. That's like a I'm guessing a classical piece. I don't know. Who
That's
No,
made
I
it.
was gonna say, I've
no.
heard that before.
They made it for Arrival, right?
No.
Oh, did they?
Mm.
But I was gonna
No, they
say
didn't.
'cause then it's at least
okay.
it's at least able because I was in the 3rd episode of The Last of Us. So I was
Right, but
gonna
I thought
say,
the song from The Last of Us was made
Oh,
for
is it
Arrival.
really?
I'm
No,
pretty
I
sure.
haven't
Yeah.
seen that yet. I haven't
it
seen
might
that
have
yet.
been made for Arrival, but
God.
either way, it might
It's-
be non-trademarked, so like they could use it or non.
Or they just got the rights to it.
Or they paid
Yeah,
for it.
I mean, that'd
song,
be crazy if
uh,
The Last of Us paid for a song from another movie, though.
That song's in other
Great
movies
song.
too, though.
Yeah.
Th-
I
that's,
think it's
uh,
it's called like I'll
No,
look
because
it
I
on-
looked this
it's
up,
on the
and I'm pretty
nature
sure it
of
was made
daylight.
for Arrival.
on the nature of daylight, so it makes sense with like what the themes are.
But if you look it up, like it's on its own album from a like
Okay,
just
fair
an
then,
artist.
fair then,
like
fair,
it's
fair,
not
fair.
in a
Just a
What kind of artist is it? I mean, I know
A
you probably
composer.
don't know.
composer.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, okay. That's what I was wondering if it was like a more modern song or like actual
Violinist.
classical
yeah,
music.
a pianist.
The song or the album that it's on came out in 2004. So
Really?
Oh shit.
I wouldn't have thought, but one of the most like iconic songs people remember actually came from the movie Daylight. I'm not going to be able to remember what it's called, but it might come up later. And it's used in so much stuff, but it's so popular in that movie. So it's just not every song you hear actually comes originally from that movie.
Yeah. I didn't
And
even
that
think
whole-
about that. I was
Oh, yeah.
sound the instrumental sounded so familiar, and I was like, I have had absolutely seen that like in the
I
last
just watched
week.
it the day before. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. And I love doing that
Yeah,
stuff, like
that's awesome.
hearing sounds and similar stuff. So I was all
Oh
about it.
God, wait. There's a name for this phenomenon where you see something for the first time ever, and then like
You've seen everything else.
like within a very close proximity of time, you start to see that like everywhere, or at least again. Like I think it's called the Bader-Meinhof
I know pareidolia is like
imposter syndrome.
imposter.
It happens with the
I know
Monos.
pareidolia is like when you see faces and objects because it's similar and stuff like that. I don't know about specifically what you're saying, but I know that's like basically the same idea, but with like a face instead of sound.
We'll have to look up
Sure, the
name
editor
after
will put
this.
it on the.
Yeah, they'll throw it up. I mean,
Yeah,
we don't
we're-
got We don't have to prove ourselves right. They'll prove us
Yeah,
wrong later.
we-
if we,
We're all smart. We know we're smart. Like
Yeah. We're more.
We're-
when you guys think about
than
it,
the
doesn't matter.
commenters.
We're dumbing
You
it
don't know-
down so we're
see,
more relatable.
The thing is, you don't know how many people just paused the video and typed out what it actually was while we were arguing
A
about
smart person doesn't have to say how smart they are.
it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
we're
we're
smart.
cool.
We're
I
funny.
just do that because I like to say it. It's not a indictment on my
I
intelligence.
like
okay?
hearing myself talk.
Basically,
Yeah.
Cole wants to sound smart, is what I'm
I've
hearing.
never said I was a modest person.
Is there any more like specific parts anyone wants to talk about? I don't know if there's anything specific that comes up in my mind. So if we're ready for the wheel,
I think
Are we
we're
ready
ready.
for the wheel?
Ready for the
it's
wheel.
wheel time. This is the part
Oh
everyone
my
actually
God.
comes here for.
It makes me want to wet.
Everyone
Everybody
skips
already
ahead to
knows.
the wheel part.
Except where they skip. Yeah, they already know.
All
the
right,
end.
here's the wheel. There's no Cole. There's everyone else.
Is
Here's
that
the
is
better
that
fucking win, dude.
what
I
is
better
that game
fucking win.
called?
I'm
Please
so
be me,
pissed.
please be me. Remember, we have popcorn
run
now.
3 or run 2, whatever.
That game is so fire.
That game was great.
That's trippy. What-
Oh, it's not gonna be.
Why is it everyone else?
God, dude.
Remember, we can
Chris is
popcorn
back.
now.
Wait, is that Chris or John?
Oh, Chris.
Chris
Wait,
is back.
Wait, it's
Chris
me?
gets it.
Chris,
Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
pick-
Oh my
pick
god,
this
I'm not prepared
popcorn.
for this.
Popcorn.
Wait, I can popcorn? I popcorn Nate.
Can-
Are
Popcorn.
you sure? Are we doing popcorn? I said that, but I don't know if we're really doing it.
You
Yeah,
can
popcorn.
Is
popcorn.
popcorn in the official rules? 'Cause
Yes.
I don't have
Talked
a
about
It's
it
a
last
rule. We're doing Scream, baby. One of my favorite movies of all time. I cannot wait to talk about this movie. It's relevant and it's great. And honestly, I hope we do a comparison between this and Scary Movie. I think it'd be a ton of fun.
You guys want to do that? Because Scream, I imagine
we could
it's
do.
like 90 minutes.
I'd say we do both because I feel like there'd be a lot to say just about Scream. It's such
Okay.
an influential movie, even if people don't remember it being that influential. But
I've never seen
I'm
it. I'm
I
excited.
I could talk about it for an
I've
hour
never
and a half
seen it either.
myself.
So
So I'm super excited for other people to see it. I know people won't love it as much as I do, but I'm super.
Well, I will say I don't like horror movies. So
Well, I'd say I don't care about.
it.
That's why I picked. So
That's why
We're
Chris
gonna see
picked
what
Nate.
let's go, baby.
change my mind.
I picked it.
That's why
Well,
Chris picked me.
does this mean Chris has to go
Chris,
next time?
I'd say Chris, you have to go next week. So prep a movie this week. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, if you popcorn someone 1 week,
No, I
you have to
think
you
go
have
the
to
next
go
No.
next. You
These
have to
rules
go
just
next.
get more and more complicated.
I don't.
I
I don't.
think that's
No, I don't
only
think
fair.
so. I don't think
I
so.
say that's only fair if Chris has to pick next week. If you have a week to pick, if you don't
Well,
pick in a week,
well,
you could-
You
you
have
either-
to have
I'll pick
a
a
movie
movie, I
before
don't
you
care.
popcorn.
You
I
either
say the
have to
pen.
pick,
Well, no, because
you
no.
either have to pick or you have to have a face cam.
did
One or the
pick.
other.
no. He did.
Chris
pick.
already picked.
He made a
Picked
selection.
Nate.
He made a selection. Yeah, you picked Nate.
that doesn't
That's
count. He has to pick a
disgusting.
movie.
No, he
I
doesn't,
think
no.
you should have to pick a movie. We'll vote on it.
Wait,
I
wait,
guess.
wait, we're voting right now.
No, Billie Eilish. All right. I vote he picks.
So do I.
I vote he doesn't.
Vote he doesn't.
All right, Chris, it's up to you,
I'm the
dude.
deciding
Get a
vote.
face cam and raise your hand, and we'll find out next week.
I don't care either way.
Oh my god.
You can't just say that. Pick one, motherfucker. Do you want to pick next
I'll
week
pick
or
a
no?
movie if you really want me to.
All
pick a
right, Chris
movie,
is
like-
picking next
Oh.
week.
Don't be so
After-
easily
If you
influenceable.
It's gonna be like 2 months before I get to pick. I already know it's gonna.
If you,
happen.
I might popcorn you, Sam. You never know. That's the point. But now Chris has to go. That's all I know.
Damn.
Be ready
Hey,
for
thanks.
Chris next week. Love you
Yeah.
guys.
Watching.
That's the video.
We love you.
Thanks for joining.
Goodbye.
Thanks for coming, guys. Love you.
I love you more.
We arrived, and now we must depart.
And